How long has it been? Oh, oh no. Well, all that time ago I was playing SRB 2 Kart when this song caught my ear from a game I've never heard of. You'd think my desire to talk about it would wane after 2 years, mixed with how rusty I feel. And yet, it hasn't. Skeleton Boomerang is an incredibly interesting but overlooked 2D platformer made by the Skeleboom project. It's known mostly for its soundtrack, but I really haven't seen much talk about the game itself. So let's see what's up with it. You play as Hunter, sailing the Caribbean seas to defeat the wicked Mr. Saturday, the Lord of Bones, who's responsible for cursing Hunter's bloodline. Armed with an enchanted boomerang, Hunter must defeat Mr. Saturday to lift the curse and prevent him from turning everyone into spooky skeletons for a big party of all things. You'd better hurry. The intro is a bit silly, it's quick, adds a satisfying amount of context for the game, and creates an immediate goal. I think Skeleton Boomerang's greatest strength is simplicity. It creatively pulls little ideas from being just a guy with a boomerang, and plays around with the implications of that to create something with a shocking amount of depth. Throw it at enemies to take them out, and no matter what you do, it'll defy physics and go through walls so you can catch it. The boomerang is your only weapon, leaving you vulnerable whilst it's in the air, but certainly not defenseless due to Hunter being one agile fucker. Movement feels snappy since you can instantly stop or change direction mid-air, working well with the precision the level design will ask from you. Finally, you can roll through enemies and most of their attacks to dodge them. Oh, and your own boomerang for some reason? On the ground or in the sky, it doesn't matter, you can do it just once to correct jumps, or cross large gaps before hitting the floor. I loved spamming rolls that go real fast. There's a slight cooldown on it that's completely ignored by jumping to maintain the speed, then rolling when you touch the ground. It's so satisfying to get into the rhythm of jump, and roll. And yeah, this means you can't use it to save yourself from a miscalculated leap, but screw it, I'm speeding! The main goal is to reach the end of the level, so you can roll through enemies and spam the boomerang at close range to tear through tougher threats, though that totally takes the tantalizing thrilling tricks to the trash. They teach those thumbs to tweak their trajectory through twinkling treasure to target, tempting those to take the tougher task through this. Seriously, so taking out multiple enemies with a single boomerang throw will multiply score gain from all sources, like enemies, collectibles, or the end of level treasure until you catch it. Oh, okay, that's why you can roll through your own boomerang. It's really worth doing because each level's highest score is added to a total, which rewards you with increased max health, new useful boomerangs, and techniques as it increases, which we'll look into a bit later. While Hunter feels fantastic to control, it wouldn't really mean much if players use roll and stuff to ignore threats and play quickly but passively, which is fine, but that kind of feels like ignoring the game's depth in pursuit of beating it. The rewarding combos change the goal from efficiency to mastery. And that changes everything. Now you must take every part of the game into consideration. Enemies are threats, but also targets to increase your combo. Some are harder to deal with as well when you can't throw. Movement needs to be more deliberate. Rolling is the easiest way to avoid boomerang, but also needed for platforming, and also to avoid damage, and if you don't pay attention to the level design and the boomerang's position, sometimes you just can't pick all of them, so within a split second, you need to make a choice and use everything you've got. If you want the boomerang to go somewhere specific, you can't just move it in midair or whatever. The boomerang will always try moving towards you, so you can actually manipulate where it will go by moving around weirdly, so it goes in front of you or above you or something. You cannot ignore a single thing. Every action becomes part of a plan you're probably making up as you go, with some satisfying sound effect, letting you know you're doing it right. juggling every single part of the game at once and dancing on the edge of failure every time the boomerang is near, where a single error means dropping the combo or outright failure. It's so simple, but the amount of focus required revs up the heart, and it's there where the boundary between monitor and experience just melts away, creating something fucking incredible. Oh my god, this soundtrack, plus Tech, whose work I've praised before, has crammed the song list with bangers that strengthen the atmosphere, but also goes in unexpected directions. Like, the graveyard theme is Disco Necropolis, xylophones for that bony sound is expected, but a saxophone chorus for a graveyard of all things? Yeah, actually really fits. I swear it's also maybe inspired by Dead Man's Party by Oingo Boingo. It's one of my favorite songs ever, so I'm biased, but there's this synth starting exactly 18 seconds in, which I swear I can hear it in the chorus of Disco Necropolis. Though, if we want to talk about more apparent influences, you find musicians called Katrina, a character heavily associated with Day of the Dead, created by Jose, and the third band member is called Calaca, which is those stylized skeletons you see for the Mexican holiday. Or there's Baron Samedi, a spirit of the dead from Haitian voodoo, sometimes depicted with a skulled cane and a fixation on strong alcohol. They speak Creole and French in Haiti, which we can see from Samedi being French for Saturday. So Mr. Saturday, who we find with that exact description. It pulls from the vast, unique cultural interpretations of death and spirits, and combines it with a lighthearted but spooky tone, fitting the specific traditions it's taking from, or spooky scary skeletons. Even if, like me, you weren't really familiar with them, Skeleton Boomerang has a fun style with clear thought and care put into the simple presentation. Hunter has these charming animations before most bosses before he locks in for the fight, to give some character to an otherwise blank slate. Dude is smooth in gameplay with his bouncing hat and clear, varied poses, so you always know what's going on. The backgrounds are these bit-crushed illustrations, which fits nicely with the foreground pixel art, feeling very like Rayman 1. I imagine the simplicity afforded extra time to go crazy with these impressive boss sprites, especially later on. It's cool that they were able to pull it off, despite the dev team being a skeleton crew. The level design stays pretty interesting through simple variety. I'm sure most levels introduce something new or applies previously established gimmicks in fresh ways, so there's different challenges in keeping your combo going. There's Bonu Naga's ambition with its aggressive teleporting ninjas and dashing samurais, so you have to keep moving. Then right after, Lock Bottom, a dense exploration-focused ship with many keys and little secrets to spot. Those are the main levels, but there's optional ones unlocked through collecting cool necklaces hidden within levels. They're noticeably harder due to the creative and wild use of main level gimmicks like Spooky Space, which is a seemingly short snowball, fucking hell, snowmobile level. We get off it for a little break, then what? This is still a snowmobile level, but the inability to roll, y-axis movement, and reduce speed makes keeping your combo up rely on careful maneuvering and tactical use of your boomerang techniques. Homing and stop allow for enough quick mid-air boomerang control to continue combos whilst platforming, or deal with enemies safely if you get a bit creative with it. Their short cooldowns incentivizes constant use and prevents them from potentially overshadowing the focus on movement. It's merely another tool in Hunter's wide arse. But combined with the double rang, not the most powerful boomerang, but by far the most interesting, you get this really neat playstyle juggling two boomerangs since combos don't end until both are in hand. A handful of short optional levels even turn the boomerang into a hazard, making this highly encouraged playstyle a requirement instead. It's genuinely sick how high the skill ceiling is for such a simple concept, as it allows for absurd combos. This expression of skill comes across in the boss fights too. These test you by forcing you into a closed arena where dodging and quick thinking become requirements. As their health drops, they start to switch up established attacks to keep you on your toes, like the ship boss throws an anchor which eventually starts fucking swinging everywhere in a big circle, or T-Bone loses its body to make it harder to hit and drops several meteors from the sky. There's this neat bit of risk-reward of wanting to stay close to damage hard and fast, but with how many erratic projectiles they love to fire, that makes it harder to dodge. But you can do cool shit like stopping the boomerang behind a boss, then you get the best of both worlds. 100%ing took about 5 hours, and honestly a pretty satisfying length, but I was left wanting for more since the optional combo system does most of the heavy lifting for difficulty. With how many useful moves and upgrades are available to the player, I kinda wish there was some sort of hard mode. With the skills and knowledge built from the first playthrough, hard mode cranks the difficulty through crazy use of established gimmicks and genuinely chaotic level design. I thought it was too much at first, but hitting that roadblock made me finally stop to think about what options I have to make it manageable. I think this is where Skeleton Boomerang became something I genuinely love. The increased difficulty and feeling the loss of upgrades from the first playthrough now makes level order an interesting choice, and makes the most cool mechanic now vital. Do I spend time redoing levels to get a fat combo, which is harder to do with less upgrades, the double rang my beloved, to make levels more manageable? Redo completed levels for higher scores with later upgrades? Skip certain levels and secrets till I'm more powerful? When should I even do a combo, as it distracts from the challenging platforming, and juggling everything without getting hit is where it gets hard. I think it generally does what hard mode should do: test you in exciting ways, make decisions more important / impactful, and push you to fully understand the game to overcome whatever comes next. The shorter length of the game works well for this type of thing. It manages to stay fresh throughout, aided by the more ominous "what if Hunter failed" presentation playing as his skeleton, and the world map's blood red sea. And it's neat to see how ideas introduced are expanded in the frankly more fun levels. Welcome to Bonunaga's Rage, where touching the boomerang will deal damage seen only in the final boss and bonus levels. I absolutely love this one. The gimmick isn't entirely negative. Instead of dropping your combo, you'll just take damage, making this level a solid way to rack up a ton of points for those much needed upgrades in hard mode. The boomerang combos are my favorite part about the game. An entire level built with that in mind is gonna be a blast. Dark Dockyard now has claustrophobic darkness, where enemies, you, and the boomerang are sources of light. It's not frustrating because enemies really help you see where you could go, and the items give hints too. Using Snop to light up an area whilst I make a careful jump just feels like a big brain play. Terror Chamber completely transforms the level with switching blocks, spikes, and voodoo dolls to look out for. The blocks are new to this level, but voodoo was pretty underutilized in normal mode. You can't hit them with your boomerang or the spikes you activate, so now it's a level about careful movement under pressure. Though let me quickly rant about how much I struggled with Cyclone Cemetery, probably the most amount of time I spent in one level, specifically because of that fucking lightning. It one-shots you if you aren't in shelter when it hits, and there is some rough enemy placement in said shelter. Trying to dodge in limited space is pretty neat, but I can't deny it drove me nuts looking back. To be entirely honest, yeah, the level design is a bit evil sometimes, but in my opinion, you do get away with it if it's funny. Like how some of the end of level chests are mimics. Have fun being paranoid about every single level like I was. The bosses are... ridiculous, but surprisingly still readable through all that. Really, the chaos just made the sense of aggression really hit once you get used to it and look back in normal mode. I really can't go back to normal after this. Well, Skeleton Boomerang is a good time without this mode, and I can totally understand bouncing off of the initial difficulty wall. I really recommend pushing through if you've 100%ed normal mode. It asks so much more from you, but fleshes out and explores the skeleton of qualities through the 8-hour playtime in wild, challenging, and most importantly, fun ways. Well, I've now 100%ed the game 2 times. Surely that's everything to talk about, right? 4 years after release, Skeleton Boomerang gets its 3rd mode as DLC. This time, Hunter's trapped in a time loop. Boatloads of new content for the low price of £4, all structured as a roguelike of all things. How do the mechanics translate into a different genre? Welcome to Vampire Hunter. I'm honestly shocked that this works as well as it does, which says more about how clever the boomerang and combo system is more than anything. With how much I liked having to play more thoughtfully during the start of hard mode and feeling that progression, Vampire Hunter feels like it really hones in on that specific feeling. It's much more of a marathon where power and mistakes add up through the 7-level gauntlet. These doors lead to an optional timed platforming or combat challenge, which are your main source of blessings. By themselves, they're pretty basic, like upgrading the boomerang's range, size, or quantity, but eventually stack up to absolutely bone enemies. I love Chain, which damages enemies between you and the boomerang, because just look at this, I'm just jumping up and down to continue the combo, this is ridiculous. They're always worth going out of your way for, either to stack them all the way up, or to pray for the few absurdly useful defensive blessings. A frog that eats projectiles for you is really cracked with how limited healing is. Double jump or slow fall umbrella for platforming, and especially the coveted 1-up. I think all of my successful runs had a 1-up or one of the other things. If you're feeling insane, you can actually destroy the trial and take a hex instead. Some enemies will even hex you on hits. I generally avoided taking this risk at all, but if you carry your hexes to a special shop, you can convert them all to positive blessings, which is, for players, much better than me, but it is a neat bit of risk and reward. You can also spend money from doing combos at shops for healing, blessings, or techniques, or bank them between levels to save for future runs. While you could arguably ignore the combo system by the late game of hard mode, its now being a currency makes engaging with it always rewarding. It's a pretty classic roguelike, all things considered, with minimal progression between runs through banked money and blood gems. The latter is important later on, but until then, it's mainly used for upgrading the fountain to roll for little items, or side objectives for the next level, which I really liked. The mostly fair difficulty is more about endurance and preventing small mistakes from adding up, so you can take on the harder boss fights. These fights are incredible, and they're so good that I don't really have anything to say other than gushing, and there's enough of that already. The order is slightly randomized, but it does tweak them to be appropriately challenging. Frankenstein is my favorite out of the normal bosses, just because he's really quite simple, but the constant lightning in your position keeps you moving and thinking 3 steps ahead with how you dodge, so you don't land in more danger. I say mostly just because, well... Fuck! That. Later on, Time Tower and Blood Zone have tons of platforming with instant kill bottomless pits and crushing platforms. It's so frustratingly punishing for a single mistake. And okay, some bullshit is expected in roguelikes with how much luck and randomization is involved, I totally get that, but this drove me nuts. I just... Okay, yeah, the 1-up is the best item in the whole game because it gives you a second chance, but without it, it's ridiculous. Yeah, okay, so I won't deny that it did lead to adrenaline pumping as I got closer to the end. A single mistake being the thread between success and failure, threats anywhere on the screen, and the thing probably pushing me through all of it, the music. God, the music! That 4-year gap is felt with more variety and more like full complex sounding tracks. It's just so fucking good. And man, you get all the way to the just great final boss after 40 minutes of tense platforming, and you get one of the best tracks in the whole goddamn game. When I was locked in and the chorus hit the first time, oh my god, reusing the first level's music to show how far you've come, and cause you're fighting the guy controlling the time loop, it makes sense, it's perfect. Surviving for the first time changes a few things, allowing you to work towards the ending. Every world now has an ominous locked door, with the shop selling a key for way too much. For that price, it obviously has to be important, and, well, I had about 6,300 in the bank, so reasonably close, but there's a new way to get more. Blood gems can now be spent to increase the difficulty through blood pressure, placing enemies from later worlds earlier with more health, I think increasing the chance of negative modifiers like wind or darkness, and multiplying the money you earn. It's certainly harder, though I don't know, I wouldn't really say it was more fun. Hitting enemies with tons of HP early on in levels they clearly weren't designed for just isn't particularly interesting, and those modifiers sometimes can really fuck you over. You can spend money to prevent the next stage's effect, but keep in mind that when you're trying to save up, why would you? At least it's just an optional thing to spice up future runs. All of this, and with how much I've been playing, really ended up getting to me, so I took a break for slightly longer than I would have liked, for reasons outside of the game though. Nearly 2 years later, I picked the game right back up and locked in. The fact I still remember this playthrough thoroughly enough to immediately pick it back up says a lot about how this game got really stuck in my head. With the key bot, the road to the ending, our final stop is finally clear. This door requires more pressure. Okay, so you need to beat the game, save 9,999 money to buy a key, then set the difficulty higher, find the locked door in every world, survive these extremely challenging but fun trials with insane bullet patterns, collect as many blessings as possible, and pray for 1-ups, avoid instant kill hazards, and make it to the final level. There is so much to this game, and it makes you fucking work for it. It's ridiculous. It's difficult as hell, but, I mean, so much effort has gone into this whole game that I have to see it all and show you, because 2% of players have gotten this far. Whew. At the final stop, the way finally opens, and the music shifts. Ticking. After everything, it holds a deep breath. You now know what's at stake. You now hold the relic to break the time loop. Now, one level left, and it exhales. For all my frustrations with it, Vampire Hunter delivers where it matters. It's more skeleton Boomerang, right? It builds upon what's already been established and the strengths of the other two modes in an unexpected direction, and through its soundtrack, it knows how to build and release hype just right. This song was actually composed by Blowwitch, who did an incredible job with the final level music. The true final boss is really satisfying. It's chaotic since it's sending you through time, but feels pretty fair, though I definitely was pretty overpowered by this point. It spawns old bosses and even combines mechanics from the other ones all at once, making it feel like the ultimate boss fight not just for Vampire Hunter, but for Skeleton Boomerang as a whole. The ending is pretty cute, getting to sail home listening to the banging credits theme as time changes. The best part, of course, is getting to read the goofy enemy names. There's a post-credits scene showing what happened to the shopkeepers, hinting there'll be more in the future. And at the end, the sun finally rises on the island, and the keeper, who's been with you since the start, no longer has to hide his face. No game I've covered here so far has fit the term hidden gem more than Skeleton Boomerang. The amount of passion on display is impressive, with support throughout the years, a ridiculous amount of fun for the price, and they're still slowly going at it. I'll be there whenever Postmortem releases. Thank you so much for watching. I hope it wasn't too obvious, but for many reasons this was a tough video to make, and I ultimately had to leave the script as good enough. After so long, it felt like I had to relearn everything, which made it clear that I have so much more to improve on. I remember why I loved making these and that it's worth trying again, but it all starts with doing this more often. They're hard to make, I won't deny that, and I'm certainly not making the mistake of promising consistency again, but they'll be done when they're done to the best of my ability.